What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Tech Talkin' Tuesdays here. Thank you guys for joining us at the new time here at 3 o'clock. We're kind of playing around with different times. I know we were at 6, but it seems like we are getting a little more traffic in the 3 o'clock realm. So appreciate you guys tuning in for the 3 o'clock episode. We got a really cool episode today. We got Josh Stewart on. He is a very accomplished tournament angler. We'll get into some of his accolades here in a few minutes. We're going to be talking about wacky rigs and football jigs. Wacky rigs I'm kind of familiar with, but I honestly don't throw a lot of jigs. So it's really cool to have Josh on to kind of go through a couple of his more productive techniques there. I do want to give a shout out to Fish USA and Jackson Kayak partnering together to do the Rethink program there in New York. I actually have more information about that. I should probably get it right. But basically, if you're looking for that, it's Rethink, and it's you can go to our Facebook page or Fish USA's Facebook page. But we're utilizing the sale of the kayaks. So if you buy a kayak through Fish USA, you get $100 first of all towards like gift certificate towards a future purchase at Fish USA. But also Jackson Kayak is going to give $100 to Rethink, which is basically feeding the people that are in need up in New York City, whether it be healthcare workers or people that are sick, whatever it may be there. So it's just a really cool thing. So you can look that up again on our Facebook page, Jackson Kayak, or on Fish USA's to get more information there. But we'll be doing that all month. So if you're looking to buy a kayak, it's a great way to get some extra gear through Fish USA and also, get some money donated there to Rethink. So again, thank you guys for joining us. Looks like we got a pretty good crew, about 26, 27. Let's see what we got comments-wise. Of course, Gene Wilson's on. James Macbeth is Jameson. Listen, geez, got some news. Jam something soon. I don't know what. I have no idea what James is talking about. I'm just going to put that up because if you guys can figure out what this means or what this means, Jameson, I guess. Website is upgraded, James says. Here we go. Website's upgraded. Is that why my phone's been going off with all these Skype messages, James? So the website's upgraded. James, I'm going to ask this question because I can't pull it up right now. Can people go check it out right now? And is it the same link? And if it is, please post that in the comments. Yes. There it is. So everything is the same. And the website is up, so go check out Jackson Kayak's new website for sure. They've been working hard on that the last couple of days. I know James and the guys were at it last night till 11, 12 o'clock. My phone was still getting messages from those guys. So Justin says, great work with Fish USA. Man, these guys are killing me. There's the website link in the comments, JacksonKayakAdventures.com. Don't let people leave your live stream. I'll try not to. Please don't leave my live stream. What's up, Chuck? Thank you guys again for joining in. I see Josh Evans is on. So we got a good crowd today for sure. I'm going to go ahead and bring Josh on, and we're going to get into this a little bit. What is up, Josh?
How's it going, man?
So you able to get out on the water and put any of these techniques to work right now? I know it's been kind of locked down. A lot of boat ramps are closed, but people are still sneaking in places where they can kind of stay quarantined away from other people. Have you found some places like that?
Oh yeah, I mean here in Tennessee, I haven't really seen any of my boat ramps closed, so it's been pretty. I've been on the lake a lot here recently.
Has it been pretty busy out there? Or are you able to find some?
It's been on Percy Priest there in Murfreesboro is where I usually fish. It's been really, really busy. Sometimes it's hard to find a parking spot at the ramp.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. I mean, I guess it's good that people are still getting out there, and I guess you can just kind of take turns launching, and once you're on the water, I mean, it doesn't get any more social distancing than that. So I know I've been trying to find some like private waters and accesses that I know I'm not going to have to run into a lot of people. But Chuck says, look at that mullet. And I know he's not talking about me. So I guess, is it really a mullet, or is it just like tucked in under the hat?
It's just tucked in. I was thinking about if I won the national championship, I was going to wear a mullet for.
You're going to do it the day, like if you knew you were coming to the weigh-in and you had won, you're gonna get it and go. I might like shave on the way there while you're driving.
I might not go full achy breaky heart mullet, but I was going to go like hockey haircut mullet.
That's awesome. What's up, Charlie? Charlie is one of our team members, but also one of our great customer service warranty guys there at the factory. Also a great fisherman. Jean's watching from North Florida here.
Hi, Jean.
So she's such a awesome to be on all the time. Jim says Tiger King again. That's definitely not a reference to me, man. So I don't know. Maybe but you were kind of pre Tiger King, so you kind of got under the radar there with the haircut.
Yeah, I've been having this style since high school. Just grow it if you got it. That's what I say.
Oh, that's the same thing. Like people always say, "Oh, you're Duck Dynasty, copying Duck Dynasty." I'm like, man, I had this beard before those guys were famous, but I didn't because I couldn't grow a beard before they were famous. Trey says you're his hero. And that he loves you. So, I mean, maybe it's the hair. Charlie says he's on lunch. I'm like, yeah, probably. It's a little late for lunch, Charlie, even at 2 o'clock on Tennessee time. But we'll dive into this, man. So you've been you've done really well in the tournament scene. You've gotten like Angler of the Year a couple times, or second Angler of the Year, coming second as Angler of the Year, I guess I should say. A lot of seconds. Yeah, well, so many top 10 finishes, I couldn't even like find them all. You've won a Hobie Bass Open. You've won some of the other KBF events. You've placed really high at the championships. So, I mean, you're always in the money and you're always catching fish. How did you get into kayak fishing really? And then, but how did that lead into the tournament thing for you?
Well, basically I got into kayak fishing was just, one day I was like, I'm gonna get a kayak to get out on the water, and I mean I already fished, so it just come together. And like the first 2 years, I bought a tandem kayak because I would just come back home in the summertime, pick up my buddy, and then we'd go to the Kentucky Lake all day and just smash them. And one day I started thinking to myself, I was like, there's got to be kayak tournaments, and because I could definitely win one back here. And I started researching, and I actually found Drew Gregory, and
nice.
And the River Bassin Series. And that was my first tournament ever was a River Bassin Series at Silver Point, Tennessee, at Caney Fork Outdoors.
Nice.
And I remember that morning I woke up to go, and I realized I didn't. I was like, what do I measure my fish with?
I know when we used to run the KBS. Or not KBS. When we used to run the college kayak fishing series, there was a lot of times the guys would show up and they were like, we know we want to fish from a kayak. We want to do the tournament, but that didn't have any idea of the rules or how to measure stuff or take pictures. And it's like, that's a big part of it. Like figuring that out and how to deal with a fish once you catch it is a big part of tournament fishing.
Yeah, definitely. Before you start tournament fishing, you probably need to get a little bit of practice with putting a fish on the board for sure.
Yeah, and keeping it that way. Scott Butcher is on. Thanks for watching, Scott. Scott says studs and legends in the industry, but he's quickly making a name for himself, and he's doing a killer job with all the different things that he's got going on. So if you guys haven't given Scott a follow or haven't like kept up with what he's doing with the 5, and he's doing the Wednesday Westbrook Wednesdays, and I know I've been on that Plead the Fifth thing, which is a great show. I mean, there's so many things he's got going on. He's doing a killer job, so definitely check him out if you guys haven't already. But so you get into the kayak fishing game, you start fishing the river bass and tournament stuff, and then you get into the KBFs and now some of the Hobie Bass Opens. And I'm going to bring this picture up as well. This is kind of your tournament setup here.
Yeah, it's basically I got the flex drive going, and I didn't even have my fish finder hooked up right then. I was just showing it. If anybody wants to point that out.
They're like, he doesn't even need it. They just come to him. So do you usually just run the cooler like on tournament day? I guess with the motor, you don't have to worry about like having to pedal and have the seat in a certain place and all that.
Well, actually, it works out pretty good for the pedaling too, and it's almost like I have a higher center of gravity, so I'm not even
nice.
Pedaling as hard because I just use my downward force of my weight.
Right.
I got that cooler like 3 or 4 months ago, and I got the backing to it, and I've strapped it down on there, and I don't know if I can go back.
Yeah, well, it's easier to stand up and down for sure from that higher seat position.
And you can see so much more too.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Are you liking the E-Drive? Is that helping you get to, some places a little easier and a little quicker?
Yeah, I love it. I definitely go to places that I wouldn't have went to when I'm pedaling.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's awesome to know. And I know we talked about this kind of in the pre-show, and we're going to we are definitely going to get into the wacky rigs and football jigs here in a second. But when I saw this picture, it was just kind of a cool thing to see because you don't see a lot of people. I know we have the ability to put the cooler on. But when I saw you with the eDrive and with the cooler, I wanted to bring up a couple of these things real quick because I recently just got in with Dakota as well, and I'm super excited about that. But you told me you were running 2 Dakota Lithiums to get the 24-volt system going for the eDrive, and you're seeing a little bit more speed out of it, like about half a mile per hour over just a 12-volt setup. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, in the half a mile, I mean, if you're going on a tournament, say 30 minutes away, I mean, you're going to gain a half a mile away you can get to before first cast, you know.
Right. And I mean, the thing is, like, it doesn't sound like a lot when you're talking a half mile per hour, but when you're talking about a boat that runs 5 miles per hour, that percentage is pretty significant in the amount of speed that you're gaining.
And say if I power the motor on, like say if I have 12 volts sitting there and then I power the motor on with 24 volts, you can definitely you can definitely tell it's spinning faster, and it also feels like it has more torque too. So say if I'm in a high wind situation, it's going to give me that 4 miles per hour consistently without, you know, dying down because of the wind. Like that.
Well, that's really cool, and I think if people probably will have like questions about running the 2 batteries in series, like you've got it, but it's no different than if you were setting up a trolling motor on a boat.
Oh, yeah, it's simple. You just need one little jumper wire.
Yeah. Where are you storing those at in the kayak?
In the front hatch under the little tote.
So did you run a pass through, or are you just closing the hatch on the cable? That's the way I do it. But
yeah, it does have a pass through. I use that mostly for my fish finder though.
Nice. Because
I got the wires out there, and I mean that eDrive wire just basically fits in that little where the rod stager is. It just kind of lays in there, so it's never in the way. Nice.
So you're getting, you know, Charlie's saying that you get that hair blowing in the wind when you're running that eDrive.
That's why it's all crazy right now.
He was out rolling around the kayak.
I was driving around some beautiful back roads, and it's 72 degrees outside. So
I know, man, it is nice out there. I was out there digging some fence post holes earlier. So you do really well in these tournaments, and I'm going to get into this now a little bit.
Some tournaments.
You do well in a lot of tournaments, man. You're always up there for sure. Are you these two? I asked you, I was like, what are your techniques? Because I want to talk to you a little bit about how you prepare for a tournament. So let's get into that actually before we get all the way into the techniques. Right. When you're going to new water, all right, and now you fished a lot of it, so there's probably not as much new water because you kind of know where these tournament trails are going to be and the bodies of water they're going to be on, and you've got your kind of, you know, things figured out for those in certain times of year. But you're going to new water for a tournament or a body of water you haven't fished before. What's your breakdown? Like, how are you figuring that out? What's your research process?
Well, depending on the time of the year, you know, if I'm going to go, you know, deep in the summer or shallow in the spring or whatever, I'll get on Google Earth, you know how you can go back and look at the previous years of the images of the map. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you can look at it high water, low water. I use that a lot, especially when I'm shallow fishing, because, I mean, you can go on there and look at and actually see the stumps, you know, from the maps. I use Navionics a little bit, not that much. That's about it. It's just Google Maps, and I just try to go somewhere and just figure out the area.
Spend time on the water. You can't beat time on the water.
Instead of like loading up and going everywhere, I mean, there's fish everywhere usually. I mean, you just got to figure them out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I do a lot of saltwater fishing and even river fishing, but saltwater fishing, that's exactly how we do it. I mean, I have Navionics app on my phone. I've got Google Earth on my phone, and we're looking at the tides, and we're looking at, you know, where we can go and stuff off the Navionics. But then on Google Earth, you're just looking for like, this looks like marsh, this looks like oyster beds or whatever. So I imagine a lot of that is the same. And then time on the water, you can't beat that. So are you taking pretty much the same setups across the board? Like, you know, we're doing wacky rigs and football jigs. Are you taking wacky rigs and football jigs to every lake that you go to?
Unless it's the middle of winter, yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
I kind of put the wacky rig down in the middle of winter. I do
still throw the jig.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into that. Let's see if I can pull up. I've got a picture here. Give me just a second. Yeah, there it is. I'll pull this picture up. So one thing I was asking you when you had this picture, I'm like, you pretty much just have this one color in this picture. Like, what's your color? Like, what's your array of colors? We'll start with that. Like, how many colors you got in the box?
Well, I probably keep it pretty simple. I mostly got kind of like a green pumpkin brown variation, or black and blue, and or kind of like I guess that one on the far left's like a peanut butter and jelly. That one on the far left it's a big mop jig.
Yeah,
it's for a big profile. It's like my summertime ledge jig,
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into that too because I want to know. I know nothing about jig fishing. Brooks, actually, guys, Brooks is sitting just right over here. He's been helping me dig some fence post holes this week. Stick your head in here, Brooks. You guys got to say hey to Brooks. I don't know why I hadn't brought him on screen quicker than that, but he's just listening and hanging out. He fishes a jig a lot, so if he has any input here, we're definitely going to bring him on screen. And I would right now if I had another camera angle to point at him because he's got some pretty cool looking hair too. You guys could have like a hair moment or something. I don't know. Anyway, so color wise, and I know, like you said, and I'm kind of the same way when it comes to baits. I don't get into the nitty gritty of like different variations of what I would consider the same color palette. I'm going to throw, a dark color, a natural color, or a white and chartreuse or something like that when it comes to chatterbaits or really a lot of baits. And if they don't have the exact same color that I want, if it's got a little black on it or a little this or that, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just trying to but again, that's a moving bait. So that's why I was curious, like how much you feel like color plays a role in a jig, which is not so much a reaction bait or a moving bait.
I mean, a lot of people say, throw green pumpkin, brown and clear water, or, black and blue and colored water. But I've fished solid black mop jigs and crystal clear water and worn them out before. So
yeah. So if they're eating it, they're eating it. It's not a.
Yeah. A lot of times I also throw like a black and blue with a green pumpkin trailer. That's one of my go-tos. Just a little bit of stain in the water.
Yeah. And so when you're fishing that, at what point do you start changing up? It's like, oh, I feel a couple bites, but they're not committing to it, so I'm going to change up the color a little bit or the trailer a little bit and see what I can get to happen.
I'm probably just going to downsize on the jig usually.
Yeah.
Like that finesse jig on the right there. That's more of my my river setup right there with a swimmer on it. That's a good one for the river.
Yeah. So I want to get into that. Go through these jigs. Kind of let's do it from right to left, from small to large here. Talk about when and where you would be throwing these and the differences between them. And then also I'm going to bring up a picture here in a minute of trailers. So we'll get to trailers in a minute, but I do want to talk about the difference in sizes, weights, and how you decide what weight and what size to throw when and where.
Well, just depending. I mean, sometimes the fish like it when it's when the jig falls in front of them fast. Sometimes I'll fish a half ounce in 3 or 4 foot of water, and sometimes I'll fish a 3/8. Just depending on what I think the fish are doing. If they're really active and they want that fast fall, that's a lot of times that's the money right there. But most times I just keep it pretty simple with 3/8 or a half ounce. If I'm fishing shallow, I usually throw 3/8. Like in the river and stuff, I'll go down to like a 3/16. Or 5/16. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty simple. 3/4, half ounce, 3/8 is basically what I use.
So you're saying on the fall, so you're getting fish, they're picking it up as you're dropping this jig, not necessarily just picking it up off the bottom.
Well, they'll pick it up off the bottom. I just feel like sometimes, say you're fishing in like some buckbrush or something, and that jig just falls in front of them real quick. They'll just chase after like a reaction bite. They'll just chase after it and just crush it.
So once you've kind of figured out your jig's setup then and the weight, what's the action that you're giving the jig? Are you dragging it? Are you popping it? Are you twitching it? Are you swimming it? What's going on?
I'd say 90% of the time I'm dragging it, just slowly, just feeling everything I can on the bottom.
What are you looking for on the bottom, an area that you want to throw the jig?
I do. I mean, like shell beds, wood. I love throwing a football jig just straight in the wood and just bumping it around and banging on everything in there. Not so much sand or clay,
Nothing going on there, nothing to hold fish And so you're just kind of dragging it and just slowly moving it. And
yeah, and on some like the Highland reservoirs, like Priest, a lot of times I'll throw it out there and I will just take the reel and just grind it across there.
Yeah.
And that seems to work really well on that lake.
I'm going to bring up this trailer picture if I can here. There we go. So tell me about this. Okay, you're kind of playing with the jig to find the right weight, and also, like you said, you might start big and then downsize if you feel like they're being finicky or whatever, and then smaller ones in the river. But what's going to determine what trailer you're going to throw on the jigs?
Mostly water temperature. Say like that middle one right there, like that Zoom chunk. I'm going to throw that in mostly in cold water because it doesn't have much it doesn't have much action. It just stays straight. Brooks
agrees. He's over here shaking his head. We're gonna get him on camera in a second because he's got some jig knowledge.
Like then my other two main ones are the far left and the far right. The Rage Crawl and the Menace. Basically, the Menace just gives it a faster fall. It doesn't have all the appendages,
Yeah.
That's basically I'll switch that up. But most of the time I'm using a Rage Crawl and see like that Yamamoto Cowboy. That's a second from the end right there. That's I'll put that on that big on this big jig right here because it's just got way more flare.
Hold that jig up again. We'll give you the screen.
That's the football jig. I mean, it looks crazy right now, but I mean the mop jig. It just has a lot of flare. It's got rubber and silicone skirt on it.
So who makes that jig right there?
This jig right here is made by I think a lady in War Trace, Tennessee, makes them called Mean Mouth Jigs.
So you find it's a hand tied skirt?
It's not hand tied. I mean, it has a rubber skirt keeper. But
yeah.
It's the only company I've seen that makes them like this huge, profile. I know there's a couple other out there, but they make these big mop jigs.
What time of year are you throwing that big guy?
In the summertime, when they're when they're lethargic and they're looking for an easy big meal.
So this is after they've spawned. They've also kind of quit feeding up and protecting their fry. They're like moving back into their summer holes and just kind of hanging out in cooler water.
Yeah, in the middle of summer when they're on the ledge and they're not looking to hard after stuff. They're just looking for a quick, easy, big meal.
I know you said you were fishing or like trying to get on Kentucky Lake a little bit. And I know a couple of years ago, I was up there filming one of the Hobie Bass Opens, and we were following a couple of guys, and they ended up getting first and second. But they were fishing off a ledge like you're talking about with jigs and like really big soft plastic like worms. And they would use the worm to kind of like find out when they were going to start nibbling at it, and then they would switch to the jig, and it was like on for maybe an hour and a half that day, and they caught their fish. Wow. and it was off. And it was like that for 2 days in a row. And we missed it because like I'm out there filming it. It's like, all right, well, it's lunchtime and nobody's caught anything. Let's go eat. And then we come back from eating and they're like, yeah, we just call our limit. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like it turned on like that. But they were ledge fishing. And it's weird as a non-lake guy to look at that and go, they're just sitting like way off the bank. There's nothing that you can see visually that you're like, there should be fish here. But that's where I guess the electronics really come into play as far as like seeing where those drop-offs are or their schools or fish are. And like you said, the fish are there. It's just a matter of getting them to eat or finding out what time they're going to eat.
Well, Kentucky Lake's a big current, driven lake too on the feeding times. Once they open that dam up, that's when they really start to feed.
And that's what you think about. You're below in the river, you think about the water coming on and maybe turning the bite on, but you don't think about it's pulling current through the lake sometimes, and that it's actually going to turn the bite on in the lake as well.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a big part of the Tennessee River there. It's got a lot of more water moving through. I think Kentucky Lake replenishes all of its water every week.
Wow, that's probably why there's some good fishing on it.
Well, the carp is the big head carp have kind of invaded, but I think they might have a little bit of control over it because I've been out there twice in the last week. Now, I haven't done good fishing, but I also haven't seen as many carp as I usually do.
Right.
But that may just be me trying to be optimistic, and they're still out deep, and they just haven't pulled up into the backs of the fish yet.
I know the temperatures are probably a little bit warmer down here. I've seen a few fish that are kind of staging around on, like there's a little local. It's small. It's like a 140-acre private lake, but the fish are definitely like right on the edge of the flats where they would spawn at. And I'm getting them on spinner baits and chatter baits on that.
Well, I had a buddy down here catching them probably about 3 weeks ago on bed, but then we had tons of rain, and the temperatures have fluctuated so much, and they're just scattered.
That was about around that full moon, I think, too.
Yeah,
3 or 4 weeks ago.
But it's good because usually the spawning here on Kentucky Lake is usually the water's not up by the summer pool yet when the time they're spawning, and so they don't have as much spawning area. And now that they're actually going to start spawning again, and the water is up. So it should be a very good spawn for them this year.
So when they are on bed, I went back to this Jig Picture. The big one on the left there is going to be your summertime. Far right, that's your finesse bait. But which one are you throwing? Probably those two middle ones when they're on bed. You're gonna try to fish that on bed at all?
Well, those 2 1/2 ounces. I'll probably lighten it up some too. That way it's not, because beds are usually in like little sandy areas.
But a similar profile to those guys.
Yes.
All right. It's good to know. I'm learning here. Brooks, you want to add some stuff? We get on here.
He's killing it.
He's just over here shaking his head to everything you're saying. So I pulled back up the picture here with the trailers. I know we kind of went through. So to recap that, the far left's going to let it fall a little quicker. And then, when you're fishing, you said in the summertime, you're going to go with that chunk in the middle there. And in the winter, in the winter. Yeah. The colder water. Thanks.
I mean,
I need this guy
it's like a middle winter, middle summer. It's good in the middle of summer too.
Right.
It's also not got that much. It's not moving that much.
So, what's your rod and reel setup? Your line setup? Throwing these guys.
My rod setup on the jig is I use that Cashin 7.3 medium heavy, and most of the time I use just 20-pound fluorocarbon.
Is that a fast action?
Yes. Or maybe it's moderate. I know it's the jig rod.
So they got a rod that's like, and not most companies do have a rod that they call their jig rod, but I know you want that power to be able to like pull them out of stuff if you're.
Yeah, you want that backbone definitely.
Yeah, because you're putting especially if you got a 1/2 ounce weight, they can shake that. So I could see a moderate rod. Brooks, what do you got? What do you throw on your? Come on in here. What do you throw on your? What's your jig rod? Your go-to jig rod setup?
It just depends. Oh, let's get that go. It just depends on
like an 8-1 reel
skipping box or
8-to-1 reel.
Hold on, let me get in there. It's a little messy today for you, Josh.
That's nice.
Will says welcome back.
Thank you. It depends, like if I'm skipping docks or like bombing out cast over like open water, like he was saying, on ledge fishing. But skipping, I'll usually use like a 7-1, medium heavy or heavy even. I want to be accurate and like get underneath there with it. But yeah, and it's a fast action. I moved to 8-to-1 just because a lot of times they'll pick it up and move quick with it, and you gotta pick up that line. You
gotta reel down, get the weight before you try to set the hook.
Yeah.
Good information, guys. I know that I think I have one jig, like literally one jig. It's a power finesse jig from Z-Man that I've caught like 2 fish on, and I just don't fish it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something I need to commit to. Now, the next technique we're going to talk about is something I fished a lot, and a lot more, not so much recent. I have moved, hanging around Drew and Brooks, I've moved into fishing a lot more power fishing techniques like spinner baits, chatter baits, crank baits, things that are moving. I'm casting them out, I'm reeling them back in.
That's all Drew throws, right? It's chatter bait.
I don't know if, top water, chatter baits, spinner baits, something moving. And I know Drew doesn't really fish this much because I don't think he has the patience to wait it out. But I used to catch a lot of fish on the Wacky rig. And that's something you're going to bring up. And I'll say that for me, like I did it a lot river fishing, and I would just get in those little pockets, those little eddies right along the bank, and just kind of throw it in there and let it do its thing. There's no like technique that you can really do.
I do a lot of twitching on mine, though. I do a lot of twitching.
You do a lot of twitching. Well, and I can see it being different too, because you might not be fishing as much current on a lake where you didn't want to add that.
I do that in the river too. I'll get on the side of the river, just like you're saying, and throw it down the bank and just kind of twitch it up, bounce it up and stuff. But,
right.
I mean, a lot of people say that you fish it, you lift it up slowly, let it fall back down. But I do a lot of. I've got tennis elbow from twitching it so much right now.
So, what's your rod and reel setup for that guy?
Oh, it's another. I got a 7-foot, just medium. 7-foot medium casting. I just have the Shimano 3000 spinning reel with 20-pound. What's the 838 braid? Who makes that?
So you're throwing it on braid though.
I think it's
Yeah, well, I throw it on braid with a leader. Yes, with a
Yeah,
usually
so
usually 8-pound leader because I mean this gives it more action. But
yeah,
if I'm fishing around a lot of cover and stuff, I'll put 12 on it, no problem.
right. So I want to talk about this a little bit too. I mean, that's pretty much the same setup that I had: 7-foot, 7.1, medium. Nothing. Fast action works fine.
That's my favorite way to catch fish is on a spinning rod, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's a lot more fun to fight a fish, and I used to do a lot more of that. In fact, that's probably one of the reasons I fish this technique so much. Is to be honest, 7-8 years ago, I wasn't that great with a bait caster. I still ain't that great with a bait caster, but I've gotten a whole lot better. And back then I fished for everything with spinning, and it's mostly because when I started kind of getting into kayak or to really fishing a whole lot, I was living in Florida. And everybody uses spinning rods for trout and redfish down there. Now you go to Louisiana or Texas and people use bait casters for those species. But it was mostly a spinning rod thing. So I was able to just kind of transition right into smallmouth fishing in the local rivers here. And that was one of the first things I did. And, rigging them wacky the way you've got it with the O-ring, that's such a big deal. So I'll let you get into that a little bit. But for those of you that haven't seen it, explain what that is and why.
Okay, I basically started doing it because I was tired of losing so many Senkos. Texas rig them, you Texas rig a Senko, 2 fish later, it's done for. But and then I just kind of stuck with it. I mean, I haven't Texas rigged one in a minute. I'll Texas rig them when I'm fishing in grass, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But also, see those O-rings right there. I've come to find out that some O-rings are real tight and they don't have much stretch to them, and they just rip your Senkos in half. Those are the what are those called? They're the Eagle Claw O-rings. I think they make them for field and stream too.
Yeah,
but they're a little bit thicker, and then they stretch and they don't rip your worms and have near as much. And the hook there on the Senko, that's not a Wacky rig hook. It's a Nico hook technically, but I like the longer shank on it. I feel like it gets around their jaw better, and I don't lose the fish as much. And say when they do dive into cover, like when I use the Wacky, I used to use the Dropshot hooks as Wacky. They're like real small,
Yeah, and I like those a little. I mean, I like this too, but also the Dropshot hooks. And I think it was Gary. I think they were Gamakatsu's, but they had more of that little like elbow where that O-ring could set really well. Or if you buy the Wackies, I think they're more designed to go through the plastic, not the O-ring. And they're more just rounded. And I feel like I had a better hookup ratio when using the O-ring and a hook like you've got there, where the shank has that little bit more aggressive bend that the O-ring can kind of set it.
I feel like the shank's long enough to, like when you hook them, it gets around their jaw too, like the other ones. And
a lot of people I think are afraid to throw, finesse baits in general because if you're not paying attention, and I know for me with a Senko, and I'm sure you can say this too, especially in a river where you've got current, you might not feel the bite. You're just looking like, why did all of a sudden my line quit drifting with the current and it's going the other way, or there's just a little bit of weight on it. So you're constantly like, and I think braid helps with that. I think you're more in contact with your bait with the braid than you would be with like, say, a monofilament line or whatever. And you're going to not miss those bites, and also less likely going to have a fish like choke it down, or you're going to hurt the fish trying to get the hook out and whatnot.
And you're not going to have the line twist like you would in fluoro or
especially
you can slap 10, 15, 20 pound braid on it and just keep tying leaders, and I mean that braid will last you a year,
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much everything I fish, and I know Brooks would jump in. I know Brooks throws a lot of you throw some fluorocarbon, some monofilament for the stretch on some of your big swim baits and stuff like that, and even crankbaits. But I know for me, I've kind of like tried to pair the rod maybe a little bit lighter so that I can get away with throwing the braid. And I feel like a lot of fish will move the kayak, so you got the stretch in the kayak as well. But I pretty much throw braid with a leader no matter like what I'm throwing.
I will throw mono on a top water. I think that's the best thing for top water.
That makes sense because they can shake it and you got a little bit of stretch. I kind of have went to more of a moderate action rod to kind of help with that as well.
Yeah.
I know I got friends that will tie straight braid because it floats on the topwater. So the idea is, you're not pulling it down. But most of the topwaters we're throwing are not going to sink with a fluorocarbon or monofilament leader on. And I like the fact that that little bit stiffer line keeps it from kind of getting wrapped up in the hooks as bad. If you tie straight to braid, I feel like, if you get some wind or, you don't get that perfect layout with a spook or whatever, he's going to wrap around and loop that line.
Yeah, and I feel like you're more likely to rip the hooks out of their mouth too with braid too.
Right. Yeah, they don't have as much stretch for sure.
Unless you're just fishing open water and you just, let the drag up real loose.
It is so much more important when nobody wants to lose a big fish, but when you're tournament fishing, it's like, you just beat yourself up for days because it's like that fish could have been the one to get you in. Mark Ryan says he loses less fish on mono on topwater, so he agrees with you on that. But getting back to this Wacky rig, pull it back up here. So how this thing works, and if you guys hadn't seen it, I know I picked mine up at like Bass Pro. I'm sure just about anywhere that sells Senkos or a lot of Senkos would probably carry this tool. But it's a specifically designed tool, and you could make one of these at home or something if you had like an old pin, you took the guts out, and
I believe that's the Field and Stream one or whatever. I think I'm not sure if it's made by Eagle Claw, but I know if you look on the back of the Field and Stream package on the O-rings, it says Eagle Claw, and I've also bought Eagle Claw O-rings, but they just seem like they work the best. They're stretchy and they don't cut your worms in half.
So basically, you load up the O-rings. And then you stick the tube down, and the tube's hollow, so you stick the bait down in there, and then you just roll that O-ring right on top of it. And it's going to make your baits last a lot longer. And I think it gives you a better presentation and a better hookup ratio for sure. I throw a lot of Z-Man, and their plastics do stretch a little bit, but it's hard to beat that old school Senko. That's just like what it was designed to do. And so what application or when are you throwing it with the jig head there?
I'm just doing that when I'm trying to get down to probably below 6 foot of water.
Okay. And this, what would you say is your more like versus the jig? When are you throwing this? You said not in the winter much. You're still throwing the jig in the colder months, but is this like an all other than winter? Is this pretty much you're going to be throwing it? Is there a time when you're like, I'm not going to be using this?
I usually have it tied on all the time, to be honest. If I have a spinning rod in my boat, it's usually got that on there.
Yeah. So what is your setup then? How many rods do you carry with you when you're tournament fishing?
5 or 6.
Yeah. To me, if it gets much more than that, it's like these things are kind of getting in the way of each other.
Yeah,
it becomes too much chaos.
Yeah, you can only set so many down on, like if you got to go under some trees or something. If you got 12 rods in the back, it's going to be kind of hard.
So you always got a jig on. You've always got a Senko on. What else you got on?
What else I got on? Usually a chatterbait, of course. I've been throwing it as long as a lot of people. I've been throwing it for about 2 years now, year and a half, 2 years. And I've been catching some big fish on it too. I usually just mostly fish it in grass though, so I haven't. I know, like you said, you fishing on the rocks a lot, like a crankbait.
Yeah, dude. And I think there's and actually, that's going to be an episode, guys. Like, we're going to do one on breaking down the differences and all the different chatterbaits because I haven't thrown it around grass much. Mostly where I have thrown it has been in a river situation, just bouncing it off rocks and ledges and off the bottom. But I think there's a different chatterbait that works well in those two different applications. And finding the one that works best is definitely key there. So you got the Senko, you got a chatterbait, you got a jig, or you got a couple of jigs tied on usually, or you just kind of go with one and then switch it out?
I usually just got one tied on.
Yeah. So that's 3 of your rods. You got 2 more. What you got?
Maybe a spinnerbait.
Yeah, it's hard not to throw spinnerbait. I feel like a spinnerbait's a big fish bait too.
Summertime, maybe Carolina rig. That's a good way to catch them when they're not biting anything else.
Yeah. That's another bait that, it takes patience. It's like Senko. You're going to, probably going to be throwing it and dragging it. Charlie says, show them the chatterbait box. That's for the chatterbait episode, Charlie. You can't be showing that.
I got a question for you. When you choosing the Wacky rig versus the jig, like if you pull up to a spot and it's got structure or whatever, or you see which one are you throwing first and why?
I'm going to throw the jig first, yeah. And I do use the Senko a lot as a follow-up bait too. because it's real finessey. It's real subtle. Say if I throw in there and I get a hit on a spinnerbait, I throw back in there, nothing hits it, and I throw something like a jig and nothing hits it. The chances are I throw a sink on there, they're going to crush it.
So that kind of leads into Jean's question here. I think she's talking about. I'm going to bring it up actually.
Yep.
I think she's talking about this guy. That is a giant. It's a giant. So she's saying this one that you caught in Florida, did you miss her on a chatterbait and then follow up with a Cinco? Is that true statement?
Yes, she did swirl on chatterbait. And then Sadiki called me and I was telling him about it, and then she swamped that one. But that's bait compared to Jean's fish, though, right?
Well, she's got them on a leash down there. She knows where they're at. She goes out there and hand feeds them, and then they come up and they're like, they want to be caught because they know they're going to be Jean famous when they get caught. She says monster.
Yeah, Scott actually said, he's like, when we went out there that day, he's like, whoever catches a 10-pounder is going to be on the front of Kayak Angler magazine. And so I just put my head down. Oh, 10-pounder, please.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever I don't think like that. I go out and I'm like, yeah, I'd like to catch some fish today because I've not got confidence when it comes to lake fishing, largemouth to go, I need to catch a 10-pounder today. I mean, you could tell me that there's like this lake's full of 10-pounders and less 5-pounders and it has 10-pounders. I would still go to that lake and go, if I catch a 5-pounder, I'm going to be ecstatic. Like, I just get excited about, but I spend a lot more time smallmouth fishing in a river. And so if I catch, if I break the 20-inch mark on a smallmouth, I really don't even care what it weighs. I'm just like, I just got to that 20. And 18 makes me pretty dang happy. I ain't going to lie. Like 18 inches makes me pretty happy. Brooks can attest to that. 18 gets me going.
My local river hasn't been putting out as much 20 as it has there in the past. I don't know what's going on with it.
I know here some of our closest ones, spotted bass, got in, and the amount of smallmouth in general that we're seeing is definitely went down. But
there's a bunch of 8-inch spots on mine too.
Yeah, they feed so aggressive, and their range temperature wise of when they feed aggressive is so much more. So they just take all the food away from everything else is there. I mean, they're fun to catch. Don't get me wrong. I love catching them, but I would much rather catch a smallmouth.
Ours are 8-10 inches long.
Yeah, well, they get into that like 3 and 4 pound range. They get to be a lot of fun, and they're very aggressive. But again, I would much rather see the old bronzeback on the end of my line. There's just something about them. They're just mean fish, and they fight hard, and I love it. I'm going to pull this Cinco back up because, again, I think it's a great way to fish it in the river is to float it. And I used to fish the 4-inch a lot. Are you pretty much sticking to the 5s?
5s, and in the summertime I break out the 7s too.
Again, you're going for that eat once presentation.
Yeah, I mean,
on the bottom.
Last year KBF Kentucky Lake, I caught a 23 on the 7-inch. It got me big fish, and I already had a bunch of inches, but it got me big fish too.
Dang, that's impressive. We didn't get into colors much, but I imagine it's going to be pretty much the same as what we were talking about earlier with the jigs. Are you pretty much black and blue, green pumpkins?
I used to be only a green pumpkin most of the time, but now I'm just solid black and blue most of the time now.
Yeah. I know for me, when it came to the river, and this kind of sounds crazy, but like our local river here tends to get kind of that orangey, muddy look very easily when it rains, and so it has that color. I'm not saying completely chocolate milk dirty, but it has more of an orange tinge to it a lot of time. And so I would always try to like get the color that almost like matched the watercolor, So when the days I would go out and the water had that more green kind of clear look, I would throw more of a green, and then I would go more like orangey or kind of muddy look. And I don't know if it worked or not. That was just my mentality. I keep looking over here because Brooks is sitting right there. They're just joining. We're gonna have to get like a second camera. You can be like you got to be like what's the guy on Letterman and the Tonight Show? You got the guy on the side.
The band guy.
Not the band. The other guy. The joke guy that helps him like the punchline
gallery.
Yeah, that helps him do his punchlines.
I haven't watched it in a while.
I can't remember what that guy's called, but I don't even remember their names. I don't watch
Useless. That's what
I got. Brooks said useless. I don't think it's quite that bad. Mike says he likes me, or Mark says he likes me because I like bronze. Bronze is gold. I hope that's not the only reason, but we'll go with it. So yeah, let me see if I got any more pictures to pull up here. I think we pretty much covered those techniques.
He had some look like swim jig trailers, maybe.
Swim jig trailer?
Maybe.
Oh yeah, like the one there, the second to the left. What you got going on with
That's a swimming chunk. I use that on the river for most of the time.
So are you swimming it then, or just you just
In the
like
summertime.
no more movement in the current?
No, it sits there in the current and just as it's sitting still, you know.
Right.
That's my number one for the river.
Yeah.
When it's warm outside.
That's pretty cool. So I know people are going to have questions for you. What's the best way they could reach out to you and get some of their questions answered?
Well, on social media or?
Yeah, I mean, just in general. Or do you want people like calling your phone number? We can post up your cell number right here. What is it?
I don't know about all that, but even you can reach out to me on social media if they want to. On Instagram at Angler Josh Stewart, or on Facebook at Josh Stewart.
So Josh Stewart on Facebook, Josh Stewart on Instagram. Reach out for jig questions, wacky rig questions. I think we're kind of freezing up on us there. So
A rig questions.
Well, that's the other technique you were talking about throwing. Hopefully your thing won't freeze. We still have your audio, so I'll keep asking questions, and we'll just look at that beautiful hair.
You not see me?
I can see you, but you're just like.
You want me to refresh it?
You could try it. Try it. Go for it. We got a few more minutes. I mean, we got a few more minutes, and I got another beer, so we'll hang out. What is Mark talking about? Tinder. What are you talking about? Here's Josh. Let's get back up. that's even better. You're moving a little bit, but it is shaky. Do we have your audio?
It's this rural internet.
We got your audio. That's the important part. So Alabama rig, when you throwing that?
I'm throwing that from late fall until water warms up to like 55 degrees.
So you're just looking for those schools of shad and trying to throw it in them.
Oh yeah, that's what I won second at the national championship in 2018 on that hog farmer A rig.
Yeah. What's your rod and reel setup for the A rig?
A rig, I was throwing it on a 7'8" flipping stick, but I've just recently got the catching rods. It's a swim bait rod. It's made for heavy swim baits. I've been throwing.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't been throwing it. I threw it one time on there, and it seems to take it pretty well. I haven't caught any fish on it though yet, because I got it. I got with cash in January, like March.
So you just
classic
got it.
March.
Are you throwing that on braid as well? Or are you throwing that on?
No, I'll throw it on both. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like if I'm trying to go deeper, I prefer it to be on fluoro.
Some people get real particular about line on A rigs.
Yeah, and here recently I have been too. Since I lose so many of them, I've been putting light gauge hooks and throwing it on braid. That way, when I do get hung, I can just rip it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's
expensive bait, and it's easy to get hung.
Well, that's it's kind of like talking about that. It's easy to get hung and get it back, but then it's also the flip side why Brooks throws his big swim baits on monofilament, because that pop, if you get that knot or whatever, that quick pop, that'll leave your braid just sitting. I know I've watched a couple of your baits.
Yeah, bull shads.
$50 bull shads just go.
Well, on braid where it just stops and goes.
Yeah, just like you see it going across. I think the worst one though was we were on the river and you hooked like it had to been a 6-pounder, largemouth, and it broke. And I don't know if it was just frayed or what made it break, but you see the fish jumping with the thing in its mouth, and you're just oh my God, big fish and a $50 bait just going down through there. Gene says, pro tip from the Peanut Gallery. Perfect. When the tail comes off your 7-inch Magnum Ultra Vibe speed worm, the remaining body makes a great Cinco.
But does it wiggle like a Cinco?
Does it wiggle like a Cinco, Gene? That's a good question. She also asked a good question earlier, and I was going to get back to that. Let me see if I can find it. She said, here we go. Do you ever stick a nail in the head of a Nico rig? Or to Nico? Do you ever make a Nico rig by sticking a nail in the head of it?
I have, but it didn't stick with me long.
Yeah, I know for me, like
some people call it a chicken rig.
Nico
rig.
for me, just any new technique is hard for me to stick with unless I immediately catch a fish on it. It's like,
you just want to go back to your.
Yeah, I'm like, I know this one works. Like, why am I going to spend time trying this? Which is probably why I haven't done a lot of jig fishing. And honestly, like if I can't make them eat something moving these days, I'm just like, they ain't biting, and I go home. But that's what the difference in a tournament angler that's out there and got to make it happen.
I might have should have just stuck a nail waiting in today. I might have caught something.
Yeah, they might want it on the bottom. I know, the little Ned rigs and TRD stuff that Z-Man makes. They definitely have. They actually have a little Nico rig like jig head, like shroom head with
I've seen
has a thing that you could pin in there to keep it from pulling out. So that's that's
Z-Man, those plastic, you can stretch that worm probably 3 foot.
Oh, dude, I've caught so many fish, and I won't deny it's a challenge to learn how to rig and mess with that plastic because it doesn't play well with other plastics, and it's hard to get a hook in for sure. But I know, like, once I've kind of committed to throwing that stuff, you kind of figure out how to get it on the hook, and once you get it on there, man, it's on there. And I've caught a lot of fish. I know I've got a jackhammer chatterbait. My foot was itching. If you're wondering why I got like close to the screen, I've got a jackhammer chatterbait that's had the same trailer on it. I know I caught over 100 fish on that bait.
Yeah, those razor shads that they're called.
Yeah, I just put the razor shad on it, and it works.
Those work pretty well.
What we got here? Allison says Glenn is ready for your teaching, Josh. So I don't know who he's ready for you to teach him.
What about what's your favorite lake and favorite river to fish?
That's a good question. Favorite lake and favorite river.
Favorite river.
You got to go. You got to go right now. Springtime, because for me that changes based on.
Let's go. Probably Duck River. Yeah.
Duck River. I've never even. Where's the Duck River at?
Is that Arkansas?
It's one of the most biodiverse places in the world. It has more. It has more species of fish and like freshwater species of fish, I think, in all of Europe.
No, it's in Europe.
No, it's in Tennessee.
Oh, then all of Europe. There's a Duck River in Tennessee. Okay, never heard of that. So
it's a National Geographic did a thing on it where it's like the second or third most biodiverse place in the world or something.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you're probably getting several different species of bass, and then also you're probably getting...
I mean, I think it's talking about like the little creek chubs and like all the mussels.
Oh. Yeah, I don't care about those guys. But I mean,
it has big smallmouth in there. It runs into the Kentucky Lake right probably 15 minutes from where
I'm gonna have to do some research on the Duck River. I thought I knew some rivers, but you got me stumped there. I thought maybe you were just making up a name like this. Yeah,
no, it goes from like Manchester, McMinnville area all the way to Kentucky Lake.
Oh, nice. So Allison says you guys are neighbors.
Allison, England by North. Hold on. Are we neighbors? Hold on. I think that's who works with I think she works with my girlfriend.
So you should know these things. You're definitely going to get yelled at later. Because
what about that lake?
I hear. Well, when my girlfriend talks about people at work, she just says her first name. I don't. Hey, are y'all the ones that just bought the? I think they just bought a bite and a Kusa FD.
A bite and a Kusa FD. So
a bite FD and a Kusa.
Did you guys buy a couple kayaks?
What about that lake?
Craig Dye says, "What's up, Josh?"
What's up, man?
So what's the lake, and then we can close it out here.
Craig Dye is one of my big inspirations too. You know.
Yeah, he's a hammer for sure.
Yeah, when I first got into it, I was texting Craig Dye like, "What are we supposed to do? What am I doing?" I thought he was the leader of the kayak community.
He's a solid dude. So yeah, they got the pedal drive.
Yeah, okay, that's a girl that works with my girlfriend.
There you go. Got to give the girlfriend a shout out.
I guess I'll have to take them fishing here soon.
You need to. Soon. I can't wait for this thing to be over. And I didn't really mention this earlier, but I think we're all kind of like, the distancing is good, and we're staying positive to get through this. And so I hope everybody is. It's a good time to learn these techniques and get prepped up for when the floodgates open and we can get back, out on the water.
Yeah, maybe they'll keep the rivers non-recreational forever. The lakes.
I know. I'm like, maybe just let kayaks go out there for a little while because we can social distance with the kayaks. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you getting on here and sharing some information. Again, everybody can hit you up, Josh Stewart, on Facebook and Instagram. When this tournament season kicks back off and you guys can get back on there, I want to wish you good luck with that.
Yeah, needs to hurry to kick off.
Yeah, and so thanks again for. I mean, I definitely learned a few things. I know that Brooks over here was very agreeable, so I'm going to bounce some of these ideas off of him and maybe increase my jig box a little bit, which has got like one. I literally have one jig in it right now, so
you got to do something about that, sure.
It's a black and blue power finesse jig, so something will eat it.
No, that's all you need. That's all you need.
Apparently, I need one other color, and I'll be good to go, and like 4 trailers. So
well, right now, just get you a pack of rage curls and a pack of half-ounce jigs. You're good to go.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jameson, and take care, Brooke.
All right, man.
Stay safe. See ya.
Bye.
Come on in here, Brooks. Let's close this thing out. Again, guys, thanks for watching. I know we dove into some little bit more technical, specific. Let me see if I can get this camera. Is that the right way? I never know which is the right way. It is weird because the screen's over here, camera's there. I got another screen here. So if it seems like I'm not looking at you, it's because I am looking at you, but not the camera. But again, thanks for watching. Again, check out the Fish USA thing that we got going on with Jackson Kayak. It's a really great thing to be able to put some get some food going, some money going up there to help. That's where COVID's kind of hit the hardest in New York, as everyone knows. So that's just a great thing to rethink up there. Again, if you missed that in the beginning, that's Fish USA and Jackson Kayak teaming up. If you buy a kayak from Fish USA, you're going to get a $100 gift card for a future purchase at Fish USA, but also Jackson's throwing in $100 to go towards that to raise money to give food, again, to the healthcare workers and the people that are in need up in New York City. Gene says, thanks. And Gene, thank you for always watching, thank everybody for watching and always being a great fan. The new website's launched. I haven't even had a chance to go check it out. I know there's Bridget. I want to give a shout out to her, James, Will, Ryan, Emily, like all the guys on the marketing team have been working their butts off on this website because my phone has literally been blowing up with them just going back and forth and getting that stuff done. So definitely go check out the new Jackson Adventures website. It's all going to be all new. And stay safe out there. Stay positive. Use this time. Again, thank you guys for watching. Rethink Food NYC, again, is the name of that. I don't know why I couldn't remember. I knew it was Rethink Food. I couldn't remember NYC, so thank you, Gene, for giving me that. That should have been like self-explanatory since it's in New York City. I was pretty prepared, but, you know, sometimes fat tire plays a part in it. Please subscribe. Please give me some comments. Hit me up on Facebook or Instagram. Let me know what you'd like to see. I know what we have coming up. We're going to do a show with the guys from Z-Man. I think Glenn Young, who is their sales manager over there, is going to come on and basically tell us the differences between all the different chatterbaits that they make. I think there's like 10 different chatterbaits, and I can tell the difference when I'm reeling them. They feel different, but I don't even really know what's going on. I'm trying to talk Brooks into being next week's guest. He's going to check his schedule, but we want to go through how to break down a river, like where the fish at, especially like smallmouth is kind of our go-to, but where the fish at in the river, how do you break it down? So hopefully we'll have him on next week. Again, hit the like and subscribe button, put your comments up, let us know what you'd like to see. And thanks again for watching. And I always forget to click this button right here. See you guys.